YouTube in 3, 2, 1. Cool. We are live on YouTube as well. Welcome to the Burn Kc Live Q+A. I'm very happy you're here. If you're already here, it looks like we only got one person here so far. Not a surprise. I kind of thought about this and realized 6:30 is dinner time for a lot of people on Mondays. However, I'm still going to keep this up. I'm still going to do this live Q&A while also talking about the stuff that I wanted to talk about. And just overall, this is kind of a learning experience. This is kind of the first ever live Q&A that I've done. Obviously, I've done lives before, but they're during like sporting events. So, and we know how those turned out. I might do those again one day, but it all depends on how frustrating the sports teams that I watch manage to get. So we'll see. That's to be determined. I don't think with the March tournament coming up for Kansas basketball, I don't think I'm gonna be doing any lives then, given they're a frustrating team this year. But speaking of them, got a little bit of news coming out of that camp. Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough, Bill Self has said on, I believe it was the 810 radio show, that neither of them will play for the Big 12 tournament, which, I think a lot of people expected. Hunter dislocated his shoulder, and then Kevin obviously has that nagging knee injury. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like that they're going to be playing for the Big 12 tournament, which leaves a starting lineup of KJ Adams, Johnny Furphy, Nick Timberlake. Let me think. KJ Adams, Johnny Furphy, Nick Timberlake. Who are those last two? Hold on. Give me just a second here. I gotta think on that. I gotta think because I am completely blanking right now. Let me, because Jayhawk Slant had that sorted out. So the starting lineup is likely going to be, if I can find it, someone said something about it on KU Twitter. Okay, I followed the guy. Where is he at? Give me just a second here. On the bright side of things, though, Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson are both expected to play in the March tournament, which is good. And Bill Self also said that that's the healthiest they are going to be all season. I would hope. I don't know if that means he expects to lose and just duck out of the Big 12 tournament, or like I'm not sure what exactly that means. But who knows? I personally don't know. But okay, I think Marco Jackson and DeJuan Harris. Jeez Louise, duh. I don't know why I blanked on that so hard. But yeah, Marco Jackson, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Johnny Furphy, and Nicholas Timberlake is probably going to be that starting lineup, which leaves a bench of Parker Brown, Michael Jankovic, Wilder Evers, um, golly, who else? You can see, just it's great. It's awesome. It's great to be a Kansas Jayhawk fan right now. They've gone through the ringer, I'll tell you what. Got our first question though. Hunter do you think hunters go for sorry, can't read that. Do you think Hunter is going to go to the draft or stay with KU? Self said the door for him was open. I honestly, I think Hunter's going to stay. I think a lot of signs point to him staying. I don't see him ducking out just because I don't think he's ready for the NBA yet by any stretch. I think he's. I want to say he's not ready for the NBA because you know he's got a lot to offer a team that picks him, but overall, I don't think his attitude's there. I don't think he's enough of a leader as of yet. I think he's a great talent, but he's just, and in the NBA, it doesn't matter too much. But I think with Hunter, he's really soft. He's not really much of a guy that's going to drive to the net, that's going to, you know, be physical, that's going to get in there and get dirty with the likes of like Jokic, Giannis, all those guys that are just, you know, guys that can score from the perimeter, like Hunter, mind you, at least until recent Hunter, because recent Hunter has not scored well from the perimeter. I really think he just needs more development. And I don't say that as a KU guy. I say that as a guy that has watched players go to the NBA too quickly and end up just completely derailing their careers because of them making that decision way too early. I mean, overall, it's a decision that needs to be made when you know you're ready. I think Kevin McCullough is ready. I think Johnny Furphy is ready, but I think he could do a little bit more development. I think he's absolutely a lottery pick if he just sharpens a couple more things. If he just sharpens his consistency, if he sharpens his defense. But as for Hunter, it's kind of, he's a double double every game type of guy. And like on average, he scores 20 points. He's a great player. It's just the intangibles, in my opinion, are not there yet. And I think he needs a little bit more time in Self's system to get there. So, second question that we have here, though, do you think do you think Worthy would be a good option for the Chiefs wide receiver room, pun intended? The actual question was worded as, do you think it would be worthy to have Xavier Worthy on the roster as part of the Chiefs wide receiver room? Yeah, I think he's a Tyreek Hill type of player. I think they would use him much like they used Tyreek Hill. Obviously it's a different offense than when Tyreek was part of this system, but I like Xavier Worthy a lot. I have him in my mock draft as the first person off the board. And overall, I like that option. If he's there, I fully expect the Chiefs to take him. And if they don't take him, they better have something good because, frankly speaking, he is absolutely their best option. But going back to KU. I don't think anybody expected them to live up to the preseason #1 hype after all the stuff happened with Arterio Morris, with Arterio Morris, with the transfers leaving, with some of the freshmen leaving, Chris Johnson leaving for Texas, and just overall, it's tough to say that this team was absolutely, going to be a contender this year. Um, even back then. Now, now it's like, okay, if you make it past the second round, this team isn't a complete and total bust. But right now, it's giving shades of the 2018-2019 team that was also picked to finish #1, mind you, and just fell apart. And a lot of that has to do with the drama that has happened, or that happened to that team, and is happening to this team. And just overall, Bill just doesn't have the roster that he wanted. And I think he's going to overcorrect next year. I think there's going to be a lot of returning guys next year that will absolutely make a difference and be better and put this team in contention for a national title. And I'm not completely ruling out that they make a run at the tournament this year. They've had their good games. I mean, obviously, we saw against Houston how good this team can be. If they play a complete game, if they play a borderline flawless game, we've seen how good this team can be. If they're motivated, if they're playing with chemistry, if they're playing complete, and they're playing their best game. And I don't, if they do end up making a run, it wouldn't entirely surprise me, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they just, fall apart in the second round, especially if they get a bad draw for the tournament. Right now, they're projected to be a 4 seed, their lowest seeding since 2018 and 2019. But if they do well in the Big 12 tournament, which it's kind of looking like they're probably not going to, they could probably hop to a 3 seed. We'll just have to see. Overall, it's kind of looking like this season's going to be a wash for KU. And that's fine because I don't think a lot of people anticipated at the beginning of the season, at least, anticipated Arterio Morris, screwing up again, all the transfers leaving and all the recruits leaving, and just overall all the stuff that happened to Kansas. You think all the controversy and stuff that happened to Kansas State was bad? I mean, Kansas suffered just as much, if not more. And a lot of people are paying attention to, Naquan Tomlin, being that guy that screwed up the Kansas State basketball season. No, he didn't. They would be a little bit better with him, but it certainly wouldn't make a difference. I still think that they wouldn't budge over 20 wins. It's just kind of tough to see. But overall, tough season for the Jayhawks. They could redeem themselves, but it's just not looking like it in my eyes. And I think a lot of Jayhawk fans have already kind of counted this season as, move on from this one and look to the next one. Or really, in some weird twist of fate, we're looking to football season now, which, I don't mind because I write about college football and it's for a website, and I edit articles for a college football website. So I personally don't mind writing about Kansas. Kansas football, that is. But just kind of a weird twist of fate to see a program that has just been so long-standing in basketball switch up like this and say, "I can't wait for football season." So, um, let's talk about the Chiefs because obviously first day of free agency was today, and it has been super eventful for every team, it seems, other than the Chiefs. Um, Obviously, the Chris Jones signing was the big one that the Chiefs needed to get done. Um, and I'm very happy that they got it done. It's 5 years, $95 million guaranteed. Chris Jones got his bag. I mean, plain and simple, he did. And I would like for the Jayhawks or the Chiefs, geez Louise, the Chiefs to kind of rest on their laurels a bit because I think that was a deal that was taxing and that was hard to do. So I think they deserve to rest on their laurels a bit, and at least for the next day or two. Um, and I've heard the rumors that they're listening to calls for L'Jarius Sneed from the Steelers, the Vikings, Atlanta, what have you. I think Sneed, knowing him and kind of knowing his rhetoric since winning the Super Bowl, I think Sneed is going to wait and see what the Chiefs have to offer before he jumps into any deal. And I think the Chiefs are the same way. I think the Chiefs are going to wait and see, what can they get for L'Jarius Sneed, but also what can they work out to where L'Jarius Sneed can be kept onto the team. And that's probably going to require some restructuring of Patrick Mahomes' contract and potentially even Jawan Taylor's contract. It just kind of is up in the air right now. Obviously, we're not in that front office, so it's kind of – but those are the two likely things that the Chiefs will have to do. I believe they're a few million over the salary cap right now. I believe it's around $9 million over the salary cap, which is manageable with the restructuring. But you got to get that taken care of in order to sign Sneed. I think Sneed is an asset to this team. I think he's one of the better corners in the league right now. And I think the Chiefs realize that it is fairly imperative that they sign him back. I think what Beach is kind of what is going through Beach's head right now is, yes, the position of corner, the position of receiver, etc., is important, but I almost feel like he sees those positions as expendable, given just how he's behaved with wide receivers and defensive backs ever since he started his tenure. I mean, you look back and you see, what he did with Charvarius Ward, what he did with a few of the other like marquee wide, like Tyreek Hill, and other guys at those positions. And you kind of have to wonder, does Brett Beach see the position of receiver, the position of defensive back as expendable? I would like to see L'Jarius Sneed back. I know a lot of people would like to see L'Jarius Sneed back, but I think Veach does trust his drafting record potentially too much, though. And this could be a true litmus test of him, of whether or not he trusts his record of drafting too much. If he goes out and trades or releases L'Jarius Sneed and something, and he ends up drafting a corner that doesn't work out, or does, and it's kind of tough to gauge where his thought process is, given the fact that he's got a track record of seeing these two positions that positions of worry for the Chiefs for the Chiefs fans, and kind of just saying, we're just going to kind of wing it with these positions. I mean, obviously, you saw what the wide receiver room was last year. A lot of people are saying Veach needs to overcorrect, and believe that he will overcorrect potentially. But I think he's going to be resting on his laurels, at least for today, potentially into tomorrow, with regard to any free agency moves. I don't think we're going to be seeing any today for sure. And I don't think we'll see any tomorrow either. Maybe later in the week, we'll see some movement. I know that there's been some rumors circulating about a potential Hollywood Brown discussion. I know a lot of people have said, or there's been rumors floating around that Hollywood Brown is potentially interested in joining the Chiefs. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. I know that he's been favoriting Chiefs related tweets on social media, so that could potentially mean something. I mean, the whole ordeal with Twitter and all the social media cryptic stuff has gotten so old. I get it. It's like, oh, obviously the players can't talk about it. And the players need to just kind of, keep it under wraps as to what the like inner machinations of the dealings are. But man, Chris Jones with the ultimate troll job for the past year and change got so old even before the season started. So I'm hoping L'Jarius Sneed doesn't fall into that, and I hope anybody that's on the Chiefs' radar doesn't fall into that, because it's gotten so old. It really has. But just, yeah, overall, you hope that the Chiefs kind of figure it out, especially with the wide receiver core. Obviously, you won the Super Bowl last year with Walmart checkout people as wide receivers. No disrespect to MVS or Rashee Rice for that matter. Rashee Rice is going to be a stud. But you have to work on correcting that. And, going back to Xavier Worthy, that's a good start. I think you get, not necessarily Tyreek Hill 2.0, but you get a guy that fits fits the mold of a Veach draft pick. He fits the mold of a Patrick Mahomes dream receiver, a guy that can get open deep, a guy that can create separation, a guy that is stupid fast, and a guy that can, hurt you with his feet and in the air. So I would like to see them draft Worthy. If they don't, or if Worthy gets taken off the board before the Chiefs can get at him, it's kind of tough to say. Obviously, guys like Keon Coleman will probably still be there. Troy Franklin will probably still be there. Maybe Ndunze, maybe Neighbors. I doubt it, but it obviously with no pro day to look at, and just kind of mock drafts from people like you and me are kind of the only things that we can look at right now in regard to draft stock. I don't know. It's kind of tough to gauge. As for the women's tournament, though, the Big 12 women's tournament going on right now is Kansas State and Texas. If you don't already know, Kansas State and Texas have both been incredibly good this year at women's basketball. K-State's kind of been on a slide as of recent. They have lost their last couple. And actually, now that I look at it, it's over. Texas ended up winning 71-64. Texas is the number 6 ranked team in the nation. So I don't think anybody's super surprised by that. And obviously, Kansas State was on a bit of a skid there. They'll still probably manage, I would say, a 3 seed in the women's tournament. But Texas is probably going to be the Big 12 champion unless Iowa State does something about it. Iowa State's a great team too, so we'll see. Kansas lost to Texas not a whole lot a couple nights ago. It was, I believe, a 13-point loss to Texas, which, and as someone who was keeping up with the game and watching it for parts of it, Kansas hung with Texas. I think Kansas is a dark horse for this year's NCAA women's tournament. I believe that they have the talent and the ability to make a deep run. And I think both Kansas schools could potentially have a really good March, at least on the women's side. Obviously, with Kansas State, they're probably going to go to the NIT, barring a historic Big 12 men's championship run. And then with Kansas, I mean, we've already talked about them. Kansas is kind of struggling with the injury bug and kind of struggling with the everything bug right now in terms of men's basketball. So just kind of tough to see what we're looking at as far as the women's tournament. Again, I believe both Kansas schools can make a deep run. I don't believe Missouri is going to sniff any tournament this year, so I'm not even going to bother talking about them. But overall, just kind of it's an interesting tournament structure, and we'll see come Sunday what Selection Sunday for both men and women look like, because at least Kansas is going to have 2 teams in it. So obviously, Kansas State probably won't unless they again make a huge run at the Big 12 title. So, going into some more news, I was at the KC Current scrimmage with my girlfriend, Sarah, and the KC Blues rugby team. And it was a lot of fun. We had a pretty good time and got to see the new stadium, which is awesome. I mean, it looks great. It's kind of a basic stadium, but the architecture looks sound. It looks clean. It looks very well put together. It's got a great view of the city, and overall, it's got a good outdoor area. It feels very roomy, and for a soccer stadium, that's pretty good. You like roomy stadiums that don't feel condensed, that don't feel like you're kind of struggling to breathe. Obviously, with the summer being soccer season, that's a good thing. As far as seating goes, also really good. They got these like really cool mesh seats in there that are kind of weatherproof, but also you sit in them for long periods of time. You don't develop a case of swamp, which is super nice for larger gentlemen like me. But just a solid stadium experience. I mean, obviously it was only a scrimmage, but we were right there on the field. It was great to watch the women compete. They have their home opener this coming Saturday against Gotham, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like because it's gonna be a nationally televised game. So that's also pretty exciting. Women's soccer is here, and it is. It's. I mean, the stadium is one of the first of its kind, and I believe it's the first of its kind in North America. So, just really cool experience to see that. As for sporting, I don't think has a win as of yet. I believe all they've done is draw, which I mean isn't terrible. It certainly isn't, losing, which is good. But I believe it was 10 goals in the first. Was it the first 10 games that they scored just 10 goals? And right now, by the looks of it, it's 2 goals in, jeez, 3 games. So offense is at a premium once again. And I think they'll work that out. Obviously, they got a veteran core still. That veteran core is very, very old at this point, but they still have that veteran core. But they also have a lot of young guys that are going to need some development, that are going to need, some ability to kind of work on their attack and work on, getting the ball in against some of these teams that have better defenses. I mean, obviously, Sporting has a great defense too. They've only allowed 2 goals in the 3 games as well. So that's good. But overall, Sporting, I think I'm wanting to see the team that made that playoff run last year. That's the team I'm wanting to see. Obviously, guys from that team have retired since then, and guys have been traded, put on loan, etc. But if you're a Peter Vermees coach team, which I believe is the reason why they had such a turnaround last year, is because Peter Vermees is a well-seasoned coach that has a ton of playoff experience under his belt. If you're a Peter Vermees coached team, you got to play Peter Vermees style soccer. And it requires a bit of a learning curve because I don't know if you remember like the days of when Graham Zusi, Matt Beasler, and all of them were younger, but it was more or less the same. You had guys that were kind of figuring themselves out, getting into form. And I thought that we saw guys that were in form this past, playoff run, and it's been kind of lost again. So they gotta get back on track. And I believe Vermees can do it. You don't like to see these slow starts, but at the same time, I have full trust and faith in Peter Vermees to make that turnaround for this team, because he did it last year. And yeah, again, you lost some pieces from this past year to this year, but you still have essentially your core with you. So just getting that situated will be imperative for Sporting moving forward. As for the Royals, they lost to the Giants today, the San Francisco Giants, 12-9. And you've been seeing kind of, obviously it's spring, still in spring training Royals. If you know the Royals, you kind of have to take them with a grain of salt. And I hate saying that because you want to see spring as like, oh, it's kind of like the preseason, where the Royals show off, what they've been working on and blah 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 blah, and are kind of showing off their development that they have and the future of this team. With the Royals, when you look at their spring records, it always seems like the future seems super super bright, and then you get to the regular season and it's like, good Lord, what happens to the spring team? And again, it's a developmental league. There's going to be guys that have played in the majors for years versus guys that have never even sniffed a AAA field, going up against each other. But you want to see the Royals do well this year. And I think with the splurges they've made in free agency, the splurges, that they've made in signing, Bobby Witt Jr. to a massive extension and all that, signs are pointing toward that. But you're seeing these scores like 12-9, 13-14. I think the lowest score that I've seen in Royals spring season so far was like 7-8 or something like that. The pitching still isn't there. And that's a huge concern because pitching has been what has plagued this Royals team really since the World Series year. And it's improved since the days of Cal Eldred and that abyss. But if you're going to be spending this money, spend it on pitchers and spend it on pitchers worth their salt, because so far it's been proven that you don't really have any idea of what rotation you want this year, because you're giving up an average of 9 to 10 runs a game. So you kind of have to develop that rotation. There's been bright spots. Cole Reagans, I believe, struck out like 10 guys this past or a couple games ago, which is awesome. I think Reagans is going to be an ace this year for the Royals. But you got to have more than one good pitcher in order to be a contender for the playoffs. And I think, the Royals could definitely be an AL Central contender. The AL Central is super weak this year. The Twins are the strongest team, and they're decent, but they're not like, the Yankees or anybody like that. I really think that the Royals could absolutely make a run at the AL Central, but it's a matter of getting that pitching figured out, getting these tough situations that you've been dealing with for a while now, mind you. Again, pitching's been a problem. It's been a real problem since 2017, back in the first years of Cal Eldred and all them. It's the bats are going, which is great because it's been a long time too since Royals have had any sort of bats going too. But you can't be a good baseball team without good pitching. Plain and simple, you just can't. And what the Royals have right now in spring season is stellar bats that are knocking in runs, that are hanging with some of the best defenses in Major League Baseball. but they're not getting anything out of their pitching, or hardly anything. So you hope that doesn't translate, is essentially all I'm saying. The TLDR version of that is Royals pitching is a cause for concern right now. So other than that, obviously Blues practice is in full swing. I was out on Thursday for my first practice, which was super fun. It was awesome to get out there. It kicked my butt. Don't get me wrong. I need to work on my fitness. Yeah, definitely need to work on my fitness. But it was a good practice, and I'm happy that I could finally get back out there. The first Blues game event is going to be Nash Bash, which is going to be in Nashville. I will be going to that as well. I'll try and keep you all up to date as to how we're doing there. Maybe go live in the van or something. Maybe. Well, maybe. Those vans can get kind of rambunctious. I don't want them ruining my reputation. Just kidding. I love the Blues, and road trips are always super, super fun with the rugby boys. But Nashville is going to be a great time. And then we got the home opener on the 30th, I believe against Wichita, I want to say. So that will be a good game. And just really happy that rugby is in full swing. We're back, folks. It's great. It's going to be awesome. So I've received 2 questions so far. I've been looking at the YouTube, nothing doing for the YouTube right now. Again, I know it's dinner time, so a lot of people aren't tuning in to ask questions, but I'll leave this up for a little longer, probably like 10 minutes at most longer. And then we'll kind of retire the stream here. Thank you for joining me. If you've joined, I've kind of just been yapping about Kansas City sports and answering the questions that have been asked. But if you've got questions for me, type them in the comment box. I'd be happy to answer just any questions that I deem relevant. Again, at my discretion. I'm not going to be answering like, what's your social security number? Why would I do that? That's very dumb. As someone that also works at a bank too, that's a very stupid question to ask. And if you fall for that question, don't give people your social security number, folks. Don't do that. That's foolish. Unless they are unless they work for the bank and you prove that they work for the bank or they work for a government institution, don't give them your social security number. Just fun facts with the Burn that have nothing to do with sports, but just want to say that. Yeah, and your mother's maiden name is also very important. Again, fun bank facts with the Burn. Yeah. Overall, got a few college football dogs articles in the works right now. Not going to reveal the topics of what they are just yet, but got a few cooking in the oven. So stay tuned on college football dogs. I also will have some Burn articles this week. Apologies for last week's lack of articles. I had a very, very busy week last week. Just seeing a bunch of old friends. I got to see my college friends that live up in Chicago. And that was pretty nice. And just overall, got a bunch done in regard to just kind of making sure my ducks were in a row life wise. So that was nice. We got another question here. What is my Mount Rushmore of Royals players? Boy, howdy. This is tough because, I mean, obviously, really the only two good Royals years that I've lived through, at least, are 2014 and 2015. Those are the only two good Royals years that I've lived through. Other than that, the Royals have just been a doormat. I think they've found their way out of last place in the AL Central two more times my entire life. Because obviously, 14 and 15, but I think they also weren't last. And I think 2019 and I think 2016. I can't remember for the life of me. But my Mount Rushmore of Royals players, obviously you got to have George Brett up there. George Brett's the best Royal ever. He holds all the records. He's the only Royals Hall of Famer, to my knowledge at least. Obviously, you got the Monarchs players and everything. But George Brett has to be up there. There's no question. Excuse me. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. I am about to sneeze. But George Brett, and then it gets kind of tough from there. Probably Frank White is up there too. Obviously, those are guys before my time, but they are historically great Royals. If we're not counting, just players, Whitey Herzog's got to be up there. Maybe even Ned Yost too. Obviously, Ned Yost had a lot of bad years with the Royals, but those 2014 and 15 years were absolutely magical for this city. I mean, I just living through the 2014 and 2015 Royals was amazing. I mean, just you had to be there to experience it. Just the euphoria of this team that has been a perennial doormat, making not one but two World Series runs, and yeah. But as far as modern players go, Mike Sweeney's probably up there. Eric Hosmer, Salvador Perez, Mike Moustakas, and a couple others. So it's tough to say because, again, I haven't been around for the glory days of the Royals. Obviously, 2014 and 2015 were what they were. But, again, for most of my life, the Royals have stunk. And we got another question here from my grandmother. Any news on whether or not we will be able to watch the games on TV in our hometown? Actually, there is some news. I don't know if you, I don't know if you read my article back a couple weeks ago. Royals games are going to be on Amazon Prime now instead of Bally Sports. So if you have Amazon Prime, you'll be able to watch those games. As far as like network TV, that's tough to say. I don't know if they've decided what games are going to be nationally televised yet or not. But the bulk of the Royals games are going to be on Amazon Prime. So it's a lot cheaper than Bally Sports. I'll say that. You don't have to pay $70 a month, which is nice. You only have to pay like $14.99 or something like that. And it's going to be on Prime Video. So I only know of a few people that don't have Prime Video. obviously, this is kind of the era of streaming services. So, I mean, what can you do? There's you kind of have to just go with the flow at this point. And if you got Amazon Prime, you'll be able to watch the Royals. If not, it's only $14.99. Unless you're spending oodles and oodles of money on something like, I don't know, YouTube TV or something. I think it's plenty doable. I'll be right back. I gotta blow my nose real quick. Okay. We're back. Sorry about that. But yeah, overall, the age of streaming services has gotten to a team that has 100 plus games a year. So, and I mean, like, yeah, they have 100 plus games a year. So you'll be able to catch a Royals game, whether or not you have Prime. I feel like, but if you do have Prime, you'll be able to catch every single one. So, and again, it's way easier and way cheaper to have Prime Video than it is to have Bally Sports. Yeah. Well, obviously now, because I don't think Bally Sports exists anymore. So, all right, we are coming up on potentially wrapping this up. If you got any more questions, don't hesitate to submit them now. I'll probably end the stream right around 7:30. Still got to eat dinner, so probably gonna get off and do that. Yeah, it's been a solid day so far. I've gotten a lot done. This morning I had homework that I had to do, and then I went to work for a half day, which is pretty nice. Tomorrow I got more school, and rugby practice. So gonna be doing that. Probably gonna be doing some editing tonight. So that'll be fun. What else? Any news come about on here? Again, Bill Self saying that once the NCAA tournament comes around, the Jayhawks will be paid. Geez, sorry. There's a lot going on. But the Bill Self said that the Jayhawks will be the healthiest they've been this entire season. Just now on the radio show. I hope that's true. We got one more question here. No way Bobby Witt Jr. gets paid so much, $288.8 million. Yep. That's the contract. It's 11 years, $288 million. So that's kind of distributed over that 11 years. So I believe that accounts to 288.8 divided by 11, around $26 million a year. He makes more in a year than a lot of us will make in our entire lives. Professional sports. I mean, professional sports really is all about money. Obviously, not just when it comes to player dealings and everything like that, but I mean, you look at the stadium stuff that's going on right now and how it's so up in the air as to what exactly is going to be done in regard to this crossroads area. Should voters vote yes, but I think in the end, money's going to determine that. Um, and when it comes to Bobby Witt Jr., I think he deserves it. I think he's I think he's going to be one of the top players in the MLB this year. I believe he's already been put into the top 100 players in the MLB this year, um, which is pretty cool. I think he's developed enough experience to become a team leader on this Royals team. And I think he's in it for the long haul. I think they see him as sort of the Royals Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, the record of success that Patrick Mahomes has is not matched at all by Bobby Witt Jr., but it potentially could be. I think he is one of those game-changing prospects and one of those game-changing players that could end up being the next Alex Gordon, the next Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, etc. Um, just a homegrown talent that is in it for the long haul and is in it to see this Royals team, hold up a crown. So yeah, he gets paid that much, and to some that's okay. To others, it's like, wow, we're really putting this much money towards professional sports. That seems a bit excessive. Have you seen how much professional sports are loved in this country? We're thinking about knocking down an entire district of our city for one stadium. It's all good. It's all good. I'm on the fence about this stadium vote. If you can't tell, then again, I won't be able to vote in it because I'm not a Jackson County resident. So we'll see what they have to say. We are just about entering wrap up time, though. Thank you so much for your participation and your viewership for this live Q&A session. I don't believe I'm missing any questions here. Checking my messages just in case somebody didn't leave it in the comments or in the comments. Does not look like it. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me for this Q&A session. I plan on potentially doing more of these. Not necessarily in place of the Scorchcasts, but maybe alongside them. I might still do a Scorchcast this week. It'll be on Wednesday, if any date. But that kind of that's kind of dictated by my schedule, and kind of how that shakes out. But we'll see. I want to make more video content for sure. And obviously, I was talking about that sports alternate history channel that is still in the works. It's going to require a ton of research and a ton of time to kind of put forth that idea the way I want it put forward. I don't want it, I don't want to say like, oh, my Scorchcasts and like these lives are low effort or anything, but I want to get better at editing. I want to, make it a cleaner product for you guys. Just how I want to do with these lives and with the Scorchcasts. I just want to make it a cleaner product, and that's going to require some time learning some editing skills that I don't have as of yet. So thank you for being patient with me. It's a learning process. I'm obviously more of a writer than I am a video producer, but I do still produce video content because I know in this day and age it's important. Thank you, Grandma. I appreciate it. But yeah, just be on the lookout for more of these Q&As and potentially a Scorchcast coming up on Wednesday. I appreciate you joining me once again. This has been the Burn Kc signing off. Be on the lookout for more articles this week, and I will see you guys when I see you guys. So have a great night. Yeah. Oh yeah, I need to stop that one too. Oops.